What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So one of my favorite things about Colin McRae's Dirt was easily going to be the Pikes Peak hill climb races and the cars you got to use in them. But there's a few different reasons why, and I wanted to break it down in this video. So as everybody does know, this game was going to have the Pikes Peak hill climb events, and to be honest, I did not even realize it was in this game, and in fact, a while ago, somebody was talking about in one of my old Dirt 2, I think it was, or even Dirt 4 videos, that they were like, yo, I don't know if you know this, but back in the day, we were going to have the entire, like, Pikes Peak hill climb back in Dirt 1. I'm like, oh, that's kind of dope. Now, keep in mind, again, I never actually played this game back in the day, so when I was starting to play through it, I did end up starting to notice the hill climb events, and I was like, bro, these are so dang dope. One of the cars I was driving is going to be the Peugeot. This car was going to have a massive wing on the back. It was actually the first car the game did end up giving you, and I cannot believe how fast-paced this was. Like, you're doing over 100 miles an hour, and you are absolutely flying. Another vehicle I was using was going to be the Audi S1 Pikes Peak Edition, or like the version of that, which we all do know this Audi is going to be in other racing games. I actually think this thing is in Grand Theft Auto. I also believe it's going to be in Forza Horizon 5. I remember this car also being in Dirt 4, so it was going to be pretty dope seeing a version of this vehicle in those games, of seeing the Pikes Peak version of it, and then being able to drive this car on the course of Pikes Peak, or at least different parts of it, trying to get used to it. Because here's the insane part, guys. This car was going to be fast, okay? This thing was going to accelerate nicely, did 100 miles an hour with no issues. But there was going to be another part I did not even realize. So, for example, the Toyota Tacoma you guys are going to see in the background had over 900 horsepower. This thing was an absolute animal. I could not believe it. It was not only going to be insanely fast, but you're legit pushing in third gear, doing around 80-something-ish miles an hour. It was going to be wild, being able to fly up to every corner, kind of slow down a bit. And I did have a few moments where I'd literally fly into a tree or something, or fly off the road because I was going way too quick. But one of my favorite things about driving a vehicle like this, like, don't get me wrong, the Audi was quick, but going through the Pikes Peak course, I was like, no, man, I want to go really fast. So I did end up trying the Tacoma out, and my goodness. And with that, I also feel like, yeah, the car is going to be fast, but the course design on this was also going to be very fun. So you pretty much start at the bottom. At first, I thought it was going to be like a tiny piece of like Pikes Peak or something, like you do the top of it, and that's going to be it. No, you literally start at the bottom. You're going to start in the dirt, then you'll end up having to do like a road course, and you get into more dirt. You're then going to end up climbing the entire mountain as well, bro. I legit couldn't believe this. So I was driving on the road, just going normally, like, yo, this is pretty cool. And then I started making my climb up the mountain. Like, you'd have like the crazy S corners. You can then see like the cliff's edge and stuff like that. You'd eventually come out of the entire street, then start hitting the dirt and climbing up the mountain even more. And it really is going to be insane going over a cliff's edge doing like 100 miles an hour. Going up this mountain kind of brought me back to watching the entire Gymkhana thing with Ken Block driving the Unicorn. Going to be absolutely wild, man, how they actually race up this mountain at speeds like this. And the insane part to me, though, is like you're pretty much driving up this mountain doing it casually 100-something miles an hour in these races. And you do realize if you go off a cliff or something like that, that speed, or you're literally racing next to a cliff's edge at 100 miles an hour, there really is no room for error, because at that point, I really don't know what you would end up doing. I do understand the cars are going to be built having like the crazy roll cages and stuff in them, but it's just so wild to think about doing these events, man. I really do wish other dirt games or other racing games captured this a bit, because I did not even realize how insane Pikes Peak actually was till I played this game, and now I'm going to be playing dirt more, going through these events and messing with different vehicles. One of the other cars I drove that was going to be absolutely insane was going to be the Toyota Celica. This thing for me was going to be right behind like the Tacoma. I like using both of them. So dang fun racing both these cars up this mountain, doing the longer course, starting on the bottom, again the dirt, then going to the cement, then going up the entire mountain itself. It was just so dang entertaining. But I was realizing something. I was like, man, the people who are doing these races, like, you guys are completely built different. Going up this doing 100 miles an hour, there is no room for error whatsoever. And I'm like, I really do wish other racing games had something like this in, or at least captured it, because I do not know of another racing game that really did capture Pikes Peak like this. And the insane part is, this game is going to be from 2007, bro. Imagine having this game updated a bit on PS5 graphics, and the funny part is, I honestly don't even need that. The reason is Dirt actually doesn't look that bad. I feel like it's a pretty dang good looking game for being 2007. And in fact, I think this game holds up very well when it does come to the overall graphics of it, especially for a game that is again going to be, what, 16, 17 years old, and it's still going to look this good. Now, when that one person was saying we have the Pikes Peak events, I was going in there kind of expecting like a tiny course, but no, you're going to have the entire mountain. Yeah, there's going to be smaller courses like the top of it, the middle of it. You even have like smaller road sections and stuff like that. So nothing too insane if you don't want to, but you can also do the entire race if you're feeling up to it. When I was using the Celica, I was like, all right, well, let's see what I can do in this car. Let's see how fast I can do it. When I was literally going up this mountain, guys, doing 130 in some sections, I was actually slowing down a little too much, which was probably my fault because I didn't want to fly off the mountain, or thinking I was because I was trying to get used to the handling of this car compared to something like the Tacoma. But I could not imagine the technology that goes into these, trying to get these cars set up for a race like this. What's kind of funny though is when I was going through these races more, I was messing around with the Celica. I was also trying something out like the S1 Pikes Peak Audi and stuff. I was then using the Tacoma. And I gotta admit, I feel like getting toward the top of the mountain is probably going to be the most intense part. What's really cool about this though is you are going to find yourself actually getting higher in the event, right? You are going to find yourself being higher on the mountain. You're then going to have sharper corners. The hairpin turns are going to start showing up because you are going to start climbing that mountain even more. There's going to be rocks everywhere. Really not going to be a lot of room if you do end up messing up in a corner or something. You can hit your brakes, but you're probably going to end up flying down the mountain. One thing I do like about Dirt, now you can make fun of me if you want, I do like the fact that if I do end up messing up, it's kind of going to like spawn me back in the road. It's not going to give you a chance to like fly down the mountain and crash or something, which in real life you're not going to have a chance to do something like that. So if you do end up messing up, well, kind of cooked there. But then again, though, a lot of that is probably going to come down to a lot of practicing, which I'm sure they're not just going to throw some random person in a car and go, all right, man, go 100 miles an hour up Pikes Peak. Yeah, that's going to end well. Probably not. You guys are also going to see some first-person footage of me using the Celica here, which is kind of insane because it's kind of hard to see out of this thing. I was kind of surprised driving this or looking at the replay, which it wasn't actually me doing this. I was doing like a replay thing, and it was showing first-person mode, which I did not realize I could do that. And I was like, this does look pretty crazy, man. So you're telling me someone can barely see out of this windshield, which I do understand the entire black strip going over is probably going to help with the sun, especially climbing a mountain. So I would probably say you're not going to want the sun in your face. That wouldn't help that much. Oh, is there a corner? Oh, I don't know. I can't really tell. And then boom, and yeah, that would end really bad. Either way, though, I gotta say it, guys, I really do wish other racing games or somehow they would do something with Pikes Peak again. It kind of blows my mind that I think this was the last game that had something like this to this degree, to where you're literally going to have hill climb racing vehicles. Like, you're going to have the Celica, the Audi, the Peugeot, and stuff like that. You also have the hill climb trucks, which those weren't going to be the exact same thing. You are going to go up them slightly, which is still dope. But my goodness, though, I just really wish they'd capture this in another aspect of a newer game. It just really is crazy how much fun these were. Not only that, they're also going to be longer tracks as well. Like, the actual main race, I think it was like almost 5.5 minutes, man. Like, it was pretty long. You were starting on the bottom and working your way all the way up, which is kind of how things kind of work, right? But you are going to start down there again and pretty much ending up at the top of the mountain going, yo, that was pretty wild. Funny part is, right after I would complete one of them, I'd immediately start it again with a different vehicle and want to run through the entire race again, or doing different sections of it, just trying to get better and seeing exactly where I can probably, be faster and stuff in certain parts. And I feel like that's probably going to be one of the funnest things about these events. Do let me know what y'all think about the entire Pikes Peak hill climb in the comments below. Would y'all also like to see something like this show up in newer racing games, or hopefully again sometime? Again, I do not know of another racing game that has something like this in it, at least on this scale that Dirt did end up doing it. In fact, this was probably one of the craziest parts about the first Dirt game that I feel like most people are probably going to remember about it.